What does the wall feel like to you when you touch it?
It's inscribed
Mm-hmm.
with light codes.
Beautiful. So as you are there, you'll be able to connect and understand those light codes. What do they say to you?
They're geometries of different place points
Mm-hmm.
in the earth.
Very good. So you know this place. You've been here before.
Mhm.
So I'd like for you to go ahead and guide me through and see what this place is.
It's a place where we used to come and harmonize energies
Mm-hmm.
to support the vibrational variances of the planet.
Mm-hmm. So as you're there, look at your body. What do you look like?
It's very, very tall.
Mm-hmm. Are you male or female?
Female.
Mm-hmm. How are you dressed there?
I have a white robe.
Mm-hmm. Does this white robe have any type of ornaments or?
There's a gold neck plate
Mm-hmm.
with different precious stones and inlays.
Beautiful. Does that mean something?
It's a way of anchoring the energy in this physical form so that we can manifest quantum frequencies in different forms of matter.
Mm-hmm.
It stabilizes them as they're coming into the physical body so that we can correlate them into a more material form.
Wonderful. So you say we. Who else is there with you?
There is a group of us that are working here.
Mm-hmm. Tell me where you are. What is this place?
It is an ancient place where the original gods and goddesses of this planet came to work and support humanity in the experiment at the
Mm-hmm.
very beginning.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about this experiment.
The Earth experiment was created to substantiate the angelic frequencies into this realm so that we could create a being that would be quantum aligned, but also able to navigate physical experiences in harmony.
Mm-hmm. Were you able to accomplish this?
No,
What happened?
there was interference.
Mm-hmm. Is this your time when the interference happened?
This was before there was already echoes of the interference. We were doing work to protect this planet from the invasion, but there were people here that had already been affected by
Oh,
those different interferences, and therefore it was harder for us to change what was already here.
mm-hmm. How long have you been on the planet?
This soul has been here since the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And what about the incarnation of this tall woman? How long have you been on the planet as the incarnation of the tall woman?
3,000 years, nearly over 3,000 years.
Very good. And this 3,000 years, did you work with this group the whole time?
No, this is just towards the end. So as we came together specifically to prevent the invasion from getting to a point where it would be irreversible.
All right.
We were selected for this purpose.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is go back in time to before this invasion. I'm going to count from 5 to 1, and I want you to see yourself before the invasion when you first came to the planet. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You're there now. What's happening?
We're here to create beauty on this planet and to birth a new kind of life that is both angelic and also universal.
Mm-hmm. So I want you to tell me how it is that you create this life.
We use the frequencies and different sounds to sing them into being.
Mm-hmm. And how many are there of you, of this group?
144,000.
Okay. So out of the 144,000 that have come here to create this life, what is your particular role?
I'm overseeing. I am, they call me, I master the sound.
You master the sound. Very
Yes.
good. Do you go by a certain name?
The lady.
The lady. Mm-hmm. So what happens next?
This is when the interference started, and I identified it because I could hear very minute frequencies and differences. This is why I had the role of mastering the songs and the sounds, because I could discern very, very particular frequencies and pitches.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that there was a disharmony in the technology that we were using to create these sounds in conjunction with the bodies that we were using at the time. And upon discovering there was something on a galactic level that occurred. There was
What
I'm
happened?
just trying to show her through the fear, because the fear and the confusion around what actually happened is still in her body.
All right.
Something was replicated, but in that replication, it was distorted like a virus.
Mm-hmm.
This incarnation has already been shown this memory, but we will explain it.
Mm-hmm.
People need to know that viruses have been here in other forms for thousands, if not millennia, on this planet, and they are particularly used and weaponized to distort life and life force energy and energies that are in harmony, so as to create and collude fear and distortion that will then magnify and ripple out, basically seeding something that is false, or it negates life.
Mm-hmm.
She, at the time, identified this viral node that had been replicated and planted by an external energy, an external, you would understand it as an AI.
Mm-hmm.
When it was planted in this place, it started to replicate like a cancer, birthing cells that were disharmonic to what was already here. She did not know what to do at the time in order to cease its growth when it had grown and replicated and distorted the material and the energy that was here already so much that it could not be prevented. It brought a lot of pain and it brought a lot of sickness to the beings that were here, because there was nothing that they had encountered previously before that would be able to prevent its further distortion of the life force around the environment through all the beings that were here already.
So how did this AI actually affect those bodies that had been created by this group?
It poisoned them.
Mm-hmm.
It attacked the nervous system. A lot of people are remembering this now because the work that is being done on levels that are unseen to many here are trying to reverse this finally, are trying to rectify it so we can be free of what was put here to seed what has become now, which is a full invasion and interference on such a mass scale that it is seemingly indiscernible from what this earth was originally meant to be.
Mm-hmm. So what is causing the reminder?
Because it's happening again.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in a different form this time. It's the memories that a lot of what this planet is experiencing now, being reminded of what it is to be infected with something that is alien,
Mm-hmm.
and something that is disharmonic with life force, with love,
Mm-hmm.
and it's seeking to cut off our connection to source. That's what is occurring now. It's what occurred back in that time before.
Mm-hmm. So in that time in which the lady lived, how was it that these forces poisoned the body? What did they use then?
Because everything was connected to everything, there was technology that was harmonic, crystal structures, even the simple embodiment of different animal species. Everything was so entwined and harmonious, connected at a cellular level, even at a subatomic level. Anything that was in this place had to be purified and maintained in this way. So having this AI node planted to seed, it seeded a false code structure, and as a result affected other code structures, creating confusion at a cellular level, and also creating signals of fear, pain, sickness. All of these were not familiar or had not been here before.
Mm-hmm.
And by this being remotely seeded, they achieved this by mapping what was already here, by stealing code structures and then mutating them so that it could be planted and then create further dissent and distortion.
Very good. So in the life of the lady, what happened? What happened to your lifetime there?
She became very sick.
Okay.
Her whole body basically turned on itself.
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that the viral structures corrupted the cell structures that were being used to power the energy in which this soul was housed inside and housed within, so it could create and oversee the work that we were here to do.
Mm-hmm.
It poisoned them at the most minute level. It was incredibly aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened within only a period of a few hundred years, which at the time was very, very quick for them. They had been here for a long time before that. Many, many souls, many bodies were so corrupted that they either had to shut down completely, or were the souls needed to be extricated from those vehicles so as to survive. Otherwise, the fragments would be trapped here.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the interference that was occurring, there were already energies that were seeking to hijack some of these bodies, to steal the wisdom and intelligence that was used to craft them. So they used the virus to manipulate and mind control these bodies so as to steal them. And this is what happened to a lot of these beings. They were basically harvested. This body, this incarnation of Elise remembers this. She recalls her son, who was very dear to her, and they would work together. He was actually mind controlled and stolen, and his body was hijacked. There were some that were hijacked to the point where they were indiscernible from who they were before. And as a result, many of these bodies were then taken and then experimented on. They were then grafted and cloned. And from this, other energies took over those vehicles so that they could come here in a more permanent sense, so that they could carry out their aims on a greater scale.
Can you tell me when this occurred?
2 million years ago.
Mm-hmm. So what happened to those bodies, those souls that were there at that time?
A lot of them either had to be removed and then recycled back into their soul origin.
Mm-hmm.
Those that were hijacked and trapped by those that had interfered with them, they were distorted, and unfortunately those fragments have been taken over.
Mm-hmm. Is there a way to release those fragments now?
Yes, this is why we're here.
Mm-hmm. So I'd like for you to tell me where you see these souls.
They are in a false earth.
A false earth.
Yes.
What does that false earth look like?
It's like a 3D earth.
Mm-hmm. Notice what their bodies look like.
They are very devolved, very sick.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of pain, similar to what was experienced then, but now it's permanent.
Very good. So how is it that you release these? At that time, you used a sound in order to create these. What do you use now?
At this time, we use energy healing.
Mm-hmm.
We use sounds, but on a higher quantum understanding, which is not needing to be heard, but sometimes can be used to
All
free
right.
these souls.
All right. So are you prepared now to release them.
Yes.
Very good. Tell me what you do.
We sing harmonies into their soul structure and architecture so that their grid can repair. And we use light codes as well as channel frequencies, sound frequencies, light frequencies, which are all the same, but just different forms of the same energy from source and from the quantum field and beyond into different universes that are not tainted or affected in the same way that this harmonic universe has been affected or manipulated.
Mm-hmm. Are you ready now to release them?
Yes. This process is going through every cell of the body.
Mm-hmm. Are you able to describe it as you do it?
It is like lifting off a veil, a graft of false code,
Mm-hmm.
simply through identifying and clarifying the energy from what was the original state. We can lift off these grafts and disconnect the cords and structures that have been implanted. This is especially important since there are structures on a planetary, galactic, metagalactic, and beyond levels that have had these entire grid structures placed so as to capitalize on these graphs and false codes, so as to power these grids for the purposes of those that put them there here in the first place.
Very good. Let me know when you are done with that.
For this body, it will complete now.
Very good.
For others, it will take time. It is up to them to choose this work.
Mm-hmm.
It will
Good.
mean freeing themselves from false realities.
So this body that you speak of, is this Elisa's body?
Yes.
All right. So what has transformed in her body now?
A clarification of cells that were still harboring this code.
Mm-hmm.
Such was that it was creating immense pain and confusion, grief and sorrow,
Mm-hmm.
and resistance to its original purpose.
What is the original purpose?
To create beauty and harmony
Mm-hmm.
on this planet, to bring through the true harmonic structures of source through to this planet and to all forms of life on this earth, as well as to all souls that are connected to other stars and systems beyond this solar system.
Mm-hmm. Is she connected with others?
Yes, to the atomic level and beyond, because this is what she's built for.
Good.
She is a creator on this planet.
Very good. So, as this creator, why is it that at this time things have been shut down for her, where she cannot create?
Because we needed to cleanse the cells and the body of these memories so that she could completely step into her true light and purpose.
But you say she came as a creator, and part of the creation part of her journey was art, and she has not been able to do the art because of physical injuries.
This art is not real. It's part of the false architecture. It's also part of her false identity, which was created when she came in with more karma than she has previously.
So tell me about this false identity.
It is an identity that was adopted so that it would trigger as many memories as possible, as many of the lifetimes in which she has experienced on this planet as possible, so that she could return to the original state that she came to this planet with. It was purposed so that she would fully reharmonize with her soul.
Wonderful. So moving forward now, she no longer needs that art.
Not in the state that it was previously, no.
Okay. So moving forward, how can she create?
She will create imagery that others will connect in with through their soul memories and through their heart. This work will be more aligned with the work that she will do on a mass scale.
Does she know what this work is that she'll be doing on a mass scale?
Not at this time.
How long will it be before she enters into that phase?
2 years.
All right. Well, right now she's very concerned about her body. What is the reason, the main reason for the injury on her foot?
Fear.
All right. So let's find out what that fear is. I want you to focus on the pain in that foot. And I want you to intensify as I count from 5 to 1 to find the origin of that fear. 5. Begin to intensify the pain. 4. Remembering the origin of this pain. 3, 2, and 1. See yourself there. Where are you?
We are at war. The angelics are not able to withstand the attacks anymore. We are being bombarded. The Elohim are struggling to hold the structure of this harmonic dimension because of the violation of what is occurring, which is the subversion of frequencies that bring life and love.
Wonderful. So look at yourself. Are you part of the Elohim?
Yes.
What do you look like?
I am made up of different light and sound forms. Violet, emerald, and gold.
Very good. So as you're there, how many are with you that are fighting?
There is thousands of us.
And how is it that you fight with each other? What is it that you use?
We are not fighting. It is us trying to hold against the other frequencies that are being sent to our direction. We are harmonizing our light codes and our sounds together so as to maintain a structure of harmony and love against what is being propelled towards us and towards other systems in this universal, this dimensional fabric, so as to protect entire galactic systems.
Wonderful. So this power that you use of sound creates like a shield?
Yes.
Very good. And how is it that it gets infiltrated?
It gets infiltrated by different other alien frequencies eating away at the sound forms, basically distorting them.
What do these aliens want?
To harvest energies and life force so that they can propagate their own existence,
Okay. Why is it that they cannot propagate their own? That they
because
need
they're
to steal?
disconnected from source.
Okay. So
They were disconnected from source in a different universe and then came to this universe so as to capitalize on what existed here.
I see. So the only way that they get their energy is by actually harvesting from others that are still connected to source.
Yes, because this universe is a balanced masculine and feminine structure. There are other universes that do not operate in this way and operate through different harmonic structures: threefold, fivefold, ninefold, 12-fold, and beyond. This in particular, this universe is a threefold structure and requires a balance of both the masculine and the feminine to unify into a unified third form, which is the balance of both masculine and feminine.
Wonderful. So let's get to the point where this fear was created. That is
In the
reflecting
foot.
now. In the foot. That's it.
Yep.
What happens?
The harmonic frequencies that penetrated this particular being at that time were in that area that can be correlated to the physical body where the feet are. It basically flipped this person's pole, its orientation, its energetic orientation in half so that it would cut it in two.
Very good. So what is that triggered that reminder of that fear in the foot of the body of Elise?
Because when her solar sun stellar body was activated at the last solstice, which was occurring at the end of 2020, her full light was returned to her. It was removed in portion so as to ensure that the energies that recall and remember her from this memory would not destabilize the path. Unfortunately, because her light has been returned to her and it is acclimating now in this physical body, in its entire register, full harmonic form, these energies, these beings, these negatively oriented beings are now able to identify her soul and energy signature and have been attacking her.
So are they attacking her in her foot?
They're attacking her in different areas of the body, but particularly in that area, yes.
Very good. So knowing that this Elohim was so powerful, there is no way that she has lost that power.
No.
She was just, for a moment, out of balance.
Yes.
All right. So let's focus first on the Elohim. And I'd like for you to round up all of the others and begin to use their harmonics to get you back into the full embodiment, the full power once again.
It is occurring.
Very good. So tell me what's happening. Notice that body.
They're focusing the energies on the area to repair and replenish.
Very good.
We are having to reconnect different areas that were so damaged that they could not grow back or replenish themselves.
Very good.
It's very painful, but this process will take time.
Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure that the Elohim body has been corrected, has been fixed, and it is now back in full power once again. And you can accelerate that process. There is no time.
It is done.
Very good. So now I would like for you to look and expand upon all of the different lifetimes that this soul has lived, that has also been affected by this fracturing, by this flipping of this light being. Notice how many others had been affected at the same time.
There are millions,
Mm-hmm.
thousands,
Very
thousands
good.
of millions.
So take a moment now and allow that connection to be made so that all of the bodies can now feel that correction, that healing.
This is why we're here, and this is what is being done now by the Elohim in conjunction with Elise.
Wonderful. We don't want to leave any of those incarnations out.
We are creating this to be in quantum time.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it is being sped along in a way that will accelerate others' experience of this healing.
Wonderful. And as this healing is accelerated, you will notice changes in those lifetimes in which you have had memories. Notice how different it feels now.
The fear is dissipated.
Beautiful. So as the fear dissipates, notice how the body now reacts. Notice the changes in the muscles, tendons, in the cells of the heel. Bring in the sounds and the lights associated with the healing of the foot. What do you notice?
Some of the signals to this area have calmed down.
Mm-hmm. You may want to send it some warmth.
Yes, it has struggled to regulate temperatures in both legs. This has
Very
been
good.
an ongoing issue.
Very good. So go ahead and you can even consider a color that represents warmth to you. And let's begin to send it down. And you can envision all of the cells basking in that warmth, almost like a warm bath. Be able to relax and finally begin to do their work of healing. Imagine them multiplying, strengthening the muscles, cushioning the bones. What do you notice that has happened?
We're witnessing the cells starting to signal regeneration.
Mm-hmm.
We are continuing to send signals to regulate temperature, but it will take time. There has been a damage to the nervous system because of the saturation of the signals of fear
Mm-hmm.
over an extended period, as well as in other lifetimes.
Yes.
Navigating this in amongst the healing and the new energies are requiring immense energy from the beings that are assisting now, but it is occurring.
Wonderful. Who are the beings that are assisting her with this today?
Her family from the stars, as well as the Elohim beings that she's connected with, but also the celestial beings that she works with ongoing as her family.
Wonderful. So let us give thanks for their assistance today.
Yes, thank you.
And as we continue to work with the body and focusing the energy there on the foot for healing, let's scan this body and see what's going on with her health, with her digestion, with the food sensitivity. What's happening there?
It's just very toxic.
What has created this toxicity?
It's a virus in the body, but also it's something that you know them as pesticides and herbicides and things that are used to manipulate food so as to keep people in this sickness. It doesn't always mean that we can digest or process these materials, which are often unnatural and they can create a lot of distortion on a cellular level.
So what advice do you have for her food sensitivity? How can she move forward without having these reactions?
It will require that she continues cleansing the body with foods that are organic. Also ensuring that there is ample water supply for the body to flush these toxins out. She has been doing this for some time already. However, it will take more time because the environment in which we now live in on this planet is it's incredibly toxic, even for those that are trying to live a clean life that is free of these toxins. It's something that is in the materials that we sleep in, that we touch when we go outside, that we even breathe in the air. It is something that propagates throughout this entire planet. It's not something we can necessarily escape from, but we can have some effect on it in the immediate experience. So it requires discernment and navigating it to serve the individual.
Now, some people are able to eat quite a bit and not have these flare-ups.
Yes.
Why is her body rejecting?
Because it's to do with viral material in the body. If there is viruses, even those that doctors these days in this day at this time on this planet cannot detect, it does cause more issues, even with foods that are seemingly healthy and nourishing to others. This wisdom has been brought through, is being brought through now to help many, especially women that are being affected in this way. Why do people have chronic fatigue? Why do people have migraines? Why do people have MS? Why do people have reproductive issues? Why do people have such strong menopausal symptoms? When in the past, to go through menopause, for the female body, it was such a sacred process. It was something so magical, and that could take women into a time of heightened intuition. But because of the viruses, because of the disease, because of the interference on this planet, a lot of these viruses are hidden and invisible to medicine that is now used. And so when these viruses and even heavy metals live in the organs of the body, it creates a lot of problems because certain foods feed these viruses. And in this body that Elise has inhabited for this life, she's inherited a lot of this toxic material. That is why it's very difficult for her physical body to cope. Because we can inherit this material for many generations back.
Very good. But being that Elise has had a soul that is a creator, she could also create her body.
Yes.
So is it time for her to begin to recreate this body in a way that it could be useful?
This is what it's been doing now. This body is recreating itself.
Wonderful. Is this causing any type of quote-unquote growing pains?
Yes, a lot.
Can you address that? Why the body is having so many pains?
It's resisting the path.
What is the path?
She is meant to heal on a mass scale, and she has been resisting this. She still thinks that she's meant to heal individuals, and she is. She's meant to help singular souls, particular souls that need guidance on the Ascension path. However, she's meant to heal on a mass scale because that is what she has always done.
So what is holding her back?
Just her fear and the memories of the fear and the memories of being attacked and prosecuted, to being in many ways held down, knocked down, tortured and killed, and all the lifetimes in which she has been someone to heal mass collectives and has been killed for it.
All right. So we know that just like when we first began, there were many entrapped souls, correct? That we were able to release.
Yes.
So I'd like for you to do a very big scan on all of the bodies that have been tortured and killed because of her healing abilities. And as we scan all of those memories, we'd be here for days. I want you to see all of those souls that have been fractured, that have not been able to go to the light because of this torture. All of those souls that have been so scared, that they have actually fractured away from the whole. And let's find them now. And I'd like for you to use what your main soul uses, the harmonics, the sound vibrations, and remind all of these pieces of your soul that they're safe, and call them back.
Sounding them to return to the original sound, which is the soul.
Beautiful. And notice what happens now as these pieces these fractured pieces of this soul return. Notice what happens to the fear.
She is able to see outside of the experience rather than from within it,
Mm-hmm.
and still within it.
Yes.
And also identify the purpose of having gone through what she did.
Mm-hmm. So now that that is identified in all of these souls that were tortured and had to experience that, notice what this incarnation as Elise has now gained from that.
A harmonic equilibrium that will allow her to navigate energies on a greater scale without the interference.
Wonderful. So as we are now correcting the issues with the foot, understanding the digestive system, and now releasing, having released all of that fear, what's next for Elise? What does she need to do now?
She needs to fully step into what she's here to do. It's necessary for the ascension for the entire collective.
Mm-hmm. So talk to me about her work with the Ascension.
She's a way shower as well as a grid worker. She gatekeeps for souls as well as for energies that are coming in for the mass consciousness. So she receives harmonic structures and codes before they are filtered out into the greater collective experience. It's necessary that she does this work so that we can accelerate the ascension for those who have chosen to experience the new earth experience, as well as to capitalize on ensuring that people receive the codes that they need to free themselves in the same way that she is freeing herself in this life.
Very good. Now, she was told that she needed to travel to do
Yes.
grid work.
Mm-hmm.
Is that still in the plan?
Not at this time. In the time where she will travel, it will be necessary because the physical repair, the energetic repair on a very physical level will be necessary for certain stargates and vortex centers on this planetary structure will be necessary, and it is only she that can do this work because she has the codes that will repair these areas. So it will be necessary for her to travel. However, at this time there is too much interference and there's too much corruption, especially in regards to travel, and she cannot navigate those frequencies and vibrations now. It is imperative that she stays still and does this work remotely because she can do it remotely. But in future, it will be part of what she's here to do, to repair those particular areas of this planet with her entire body, as well as all other structures that are operating through this physical vehicle.
Very good. Now, you speak about the new earth. And as you spoke before about all of those souls that were trapped in a false reality, a false earth, is that what is happening again on this earth?
Yes, it's the
Describe
same
that
thing.
for me.
It's what happened before. It's what happened in every aeon that this planet has cycled through. And in each cycle, we have sought to correct what interference occurred, to rectify the disharmonic structures that were planted here. It's been a very long journey for those that have been here trying to repair, trying to rescue the souls that have been trapped here for so long, and to reintegrate the light from source in a way that it was originally meant to be. It's taken millions of years to get to this point, and we are now at such a the time now is important, because if we do not choose to change things now, the experiment has failed for the last time. We cannot do this again, because the de-evolution of the physical bodies that are housing these memories and these codes, these fragments, are so damaged that they will need to be repaired and rebuilt from the source. They cannot be recovered. So we are doing our utmost to recover as much as possible where we can here now. Otherwise, we will need to repair from the source. And that will mean closing down certain areas of these souls so that they can rehabilitate. And it may mean that some souls will not recover fully, but that does not mean that they will be irreversible or irreparable. It simply means that they will need to go on to another journey in a different form, which sometimes means physical death and a recycling of the light. But for others, it does mean that those aspects of their energy need to dissolve completely.
Now, in 2020, it seemed like everything was going well at the beginning of the year. We were all looking forward to the ascension of the earth, the new earth, and then we were hit with this virus. What was this ever planned on a soul level?
It is the last efforts of those that came here to interfere, to hold on to the structures that they built to mind control, to distort, to harvest, and to feed. It's not in any way part of the ascension, but it is occurring because the ascension is occurring. So it is important that people understand that this is the false reality. That is the false earth. That is not the real experience of those that are living new earth, or who are now beginning to embody a new register and dimensional experience that some souls have chosen to embody or are here to shift into simply through it being part of their purpose. As well as to not just support their own return to source, to the core of all life and all light, but also to rescue those that were trapped here when the interference began, from as well as in all the cycles and aeons that followed as a result of that original corruption.
So for these that are influencing the earth, what is it that they really want the humans for?
To harvest their energy.
To harvest. And how do they harvest the energy? What state does the human have to be in to be harvested?
They need to be in low vibrational frequencies such as fear, grief, shame, pain associated with loss, but mostly fear, because fear is the origin of all lower vibrational programming. It is this state where the body goes into shock, and through this shock, because the vibrations of the cells are so important to maintaining the vibration of the soul. Those cells develop a distortion, a signaling that acclimates more with a register that is fear-based rather than love-based.
Mm-hmm. So these influences feed off of that vibration, that low vibration.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. So in order for us not to be influenced, we need to not be in fear.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
It is just difficult for many because, to put it simply, there are a lot of fear-based memories still in the cells of the body. So some people do their utmost to be in love, to be in bliss, to be in gratitude. But unless the cells, the physical body, is vibrating precisely with love, with bliss, with gratitude, with grace, then the emotional state will replicate that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more complex for the third dimensional mind to understand, because it requires that the physical body is vibrating at these higher vibrational, higher dimensional registers.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for this to be achieved, it means the cells being healed and released, because quantum time is not linear, and it does mean that certain cells vibrating now are vibrating with cells that may be experiencing fear in a different lifetime or a different timeline.
Yes.
At a different time, as you well know, this quantum time is where particles or antiparticles are indiscernible within the linear time stream that the humans understand. So if someone is trying to embody love, but their cells are vibrating with fear because of a memory that has been triggered by an event or a person or a situation, or even an injury, as in Elisa's case,
Mm-hmm.
then it's impossible for the cells to vibrate with love, because they are being signaled from that memory. And until that memory is released and is freed, then the body will just continue in that state and will stay in that state. It is very difficult for humans to navigate this, because a lot of them do not have a reference, and there are very few souls that can support this process. You are one of them, Alba. That is why you are doing this work.
Mm-hmm.
That is why Elise does the energy healing. That is why she does this work for others, because it is part of what she is here to do, to support others through clarifying the cells, purifying the cells, and allowing the physical body to acclimate the light from higher registers and dimensions of experience and energy, so that they can be incarnated and integrated at a cellular and subatomic atomic level.
Very good. So do you believe that Elise is now fully whole from all of those experiences and can begin her work?
Yes, we need her to do this as soon as possible, because she has contracts with particular souls that will free them from where they are currently experiencing what she's experiencing. She's experienced what she has gone through recently, so that she has a reference point to help others on this path. It does require that she goes through immense pain and emotional, she says, torture. It feels like she is being tortured, because in those memories that those soul fragments were recovered from, she was being tortured, not just on Earth, but also from memories beyond this planet. Because what people do not understand, it's not just lifetimes on this plane, in this planet, that we incarnate with. We have many galactic memories. We have many what is called universal and cosmic memories, which have to do with entire systems beyond this particular solar system, even this galaxy. And we need to address these just as much as the lifetimes here on Earth, because much of what we're experiencing here started in the galactic realms and dimensions. And it's just a ripple.
Just a ripple. Very good.
Yes.
So how can one begin to heal, to get out of this this false earth and start moving forward? What's the first step?
Listening to the body. As soon as the body signals that there needs to be healing, if it is an injury or a sickness, a virus, it needs to be addressed as soon as possible, because we're in a place now in the Ascension where things will manifest so quickly, to a point where it can almost be instantaneous. In the case with Elise, it was one day she was able to walk and run and dance. The next she couldn't walk. And she feels like she manifested and created this for herself. That is not true. She needs to know that. It's so important that we understand we do not create. The belief that we create what we experience is true, but we don't always create our pain. A lot of the time there is external interference. Unfortunately, in Elisa's case, she experiences what many do, which we use this word to discern. It is not to define, but there are a lot of demonics, and there are a lot of very negative entities, very vicious, aggressive beings. Some of these are known as reptilians. Some of these are known as discarnates. In Elisa's case, she has warred with many of these beings. She has prevented a lot of them from interfering. She has been the shield against entire collective against these beings. As one singular energy, it's been very difficult for her to be on this planet, especially in these physical bodies that she has incarnated into ongoing since her time in the original form that she took when she came here to contribute to the original experiment on this planet Earth, as well as Gaia, which is the ascended form of this planet. And so many encounter these energies not knowing that they are. And then when they interfere, often the case is it's like pulling a switch, taking a switch to a certain area, a certain cell, because that's how they access the body. So all they need to do is trigger that cell in the body, and as soon as that happens, that cell then signals to other cells, and it ripples out into different areas of the body, organs, the nervous system, tissues, and that is essentially what she went through. But it was also something that she had to experience so that she could remember, and she's always protected, but in this case it needed to occur so that she could recover what she has recovered now.
Who orchestrated this?
There is a particular faction of reptilians led by a being that she has confronted recently, because she identified it in her self-healing and meditation. It is a master of a faction of draconians. It's a white Draco being. These are usually female, and it is a being that she encountered in the angelic wars.
So when somebody encounters some sort of influence or interference from these white Dracos, what can one do to protect themselves?
It is very easy to drop into fear because the humans have had experience with these beings for so long that that is essentially where we drop into because of what we've experienced previously. We really encourage people to go out in nature when this occurs, to use the environment, the natural environment, as well as the energies from flowers, trees, plants, the soil, rocks, crystals even. Special crystals can assist in ensuring that the body can stay into a register where it can command that these energies leave. We have complete sovereignty. The issue when we encounter these energies, even if we do not hear or see them, even though Elise can hear or see them, she still struggles. And she understands how others struggle, so that when they come to her and are suffering, and she's seeing these energies and these entities, these beings, she can understand the fear that they're going through, because it is simply the memories that they have of these beings, not just from this planet, but on other planets. For others that feel that they cannot navigate these experiences for lack of clarity of seeing or from some sort of psychic connection, which is not necessary, it requires them to command their space as sovereign and to focus their heart field towards their third eye. If you focus the heart field towards the center of their cranium, where their pineal gland, their glands situate in their brain structure, this heart space, they cannot navigate it.
So you have to take your energy from your heart
Yes.
into the reptilian's pineal gland.
Yes.
Direct it there.
Yes, but you must be in nature to do this, or
Okay.
at least in a position of love. If you are in fear, it will be very difficult to command your space in this way.
It'll backfire, wouldn't it?
It will. It does require that it's from a place of love. For some people, that's going to be a learning process, but we are so protected by our loved ones and celestials and beings of light all the time that are helping us to project love in every moment. So it is incredibly important to know that we're not alone when we do this work.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Is there any more advice that you give to Elise moving forward as she is supposed to begin to do this mass healing?
She just needs to accept that this is her path and that things will change in the future in the time frame that is for her highest good, but also for those that she will connect with. Those that feel drawn to her will reach out to her, and it is up to her to accept this, because in many ways she does not feel that she's capable of doing this work, but she is. It's just a matter of trust.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Who is it that has been assisting Elise with this session today?
The beings of light that she works with, and also her teachers that she knew in previous lifetimes. These are the ones that you and others would know as Sekhmet,
All right.
Merlin, and Kuan Yin.
Very good. So I would like to thank them all for this. It's been a beautiful session. A lot of healing, a lot of work in a very short period of time. And before we finish, I'd like for you to do a final scan on Elise. Make sure that she is shining bright, glowing in this energy.
There is one more thing that is, there is an entity in her right foot that is trying to bring her back into an old state.
Ah, all right. Would you allow me to speak with that entity?
Yes.
Very good. So I'm going to count from 1 to 3. When I get to number 3, let me speak with you. 1, 2, and 3. Switch. You there in the foot? Are you male or female?
Male.
Male. What may I call you?
Surah.
Surah. Surah, how is it that you were able to access the energy in her foot?
The pain.
Were you drawn to that pain, Surah?
Yes.
What do you get from that pain?
Satisfaction.
Satisfaction. Why is it that you chose Elisa's foot?
Because she's tried to stop me when she was in Egypt. I was trying to, I don't want to tell you.
She was trying to not to tell me?
She doesn't, I don't want to tell you.
Ah, is it something that would be embarrassing?
Yes.
Ah, okay. So, Sarah, this thing that you were doing in Egypt, is it affecting her life now?
Yes.
Ah, okay. What is she receiving from that lifetime?
The wisdom
The wisdom.
and the
I see.
knowledge that she was a protector and an overseer for that particular place.
Okay. So, Sarah, why is it that you cannot access your own satisfaction?
Because she undermined my power.
She did. Okay. So, if she were to acknowledge this, would that be satisfying? Would you need to be in her foot any longer? It seems to me that you have followed her into this lifetime for that reason.
Yes, she didn't, she took my power away.
Mm-hmm.
I had authority. She was my pharaoh, but she took my authority away when I tried to go against her wishes and her direction.
All right. So let me switch. Elise, I want you to see how this has affected you and how you used your power in that lifetime to hurt another. What would you like to tell Sarah at this time?
I'm sorry, I thought I was doing what was right for my people.
Switch. Sarah, how does that feel to receive those words from the Pharaoh?
I feel shame. And I didn't understand at the time. It felt like everything was being taken away from me. So I want to take everything away from her.
Okay, so now that you could see that it was a misunderstanding, Sarah, wouldn't you like to bask in your own light, in your own power once again?
Yes.
Very good. So I want you to see how it is that you are attached to this soul.
Yes, I'm entwined into the sciatic nerve.
All right. So I want you to go ahead and, first of all, focus on that light within you, Sarah. This is the light that you should have been connected to before. Notice how that light within you makes you feel.
More at peace.
So this is the connection to your source, to your creator. I want you to expand on that light and amplify it. And notice as you amplify that light, how you begin to release this energy from this soul's sciatic nerve, from her foot, from her leg. Notice how that's happening.
I do not need to feed on her energy anymore.
Very good. So, are you ready now to go to the light, Sarah?
Yes.
Is there anything you would like to tell Elise, the Pharaoh, before you leave?
I am sorry, and what she did in that life paved the way for the Ascension. And I see that now, and I am sorry.
Very good. So, Elise, I'd like for you to go ahead and begin pulling out all of the energy that you see from Sarah. And Sarah, I'd like for you to tell me who is there waiting for you in the light?
Ra.
Beautiful. Sarah, may the light of the universe always accompany you. Take your energy with you and close the portal down. And now, Elise, I want you to go ahead and fill that space with a color that represents healing for you. What would that be?
Gold.
Beautiful. So feel that golden light. Fill that space. And as it does, you could almost feel all of the nerves, all of the muscles, everything relaxing into that beautiful feeling. And as it finishes in that spot, I'd like for you to go ahead and expand that golden light to the rest of your body. Feel that entire body become golden. And then expand it out and just wrap yourself in that golden light. And in the comfort of the golden light, is there anything else that we need to take care of today, or do you feel that we are complete?
She needs to understand that in order to support others, you need to first support yourself. And this is the trap that many fall into, where they see a path that is going to bring them greater joy and peace, but they neglect their physical well-being and the well-being of their soul. At the expense of everything else, they will seek salvation in small things that might distract them from what truly is what they're meant to do, for fear of fully stepping into their truth. And others need to understand this as well, because now is not the time to choose anything that is not going to nourish and support their soul, their light, and their ascension process, if they so choose to experience that. We all have a choice. The collective is no longer in a state where we will ascend together. There is a critical mass that is going to support all souls, but in a way that means that everyone will experience their ascension in a very individualized manner. So no path is going to be the same. No experience is going to be the same. No energy healing is going to be the same, which is why she's doing the work that she's doing. Because her healing, the way that she works, is unique to the way that she has always worked. Her being, the light being that she is unique, as we all are. And we have gifts to offer in many different ways. If we let ourselves be distracted by the material world, and even with relationships, places that don't harmonize with our soul, we will be shown a different path in a way that closes off all other paths. It might seem very stark and sudden to experience this form of change, but it is sometimes essential for souls like Elise because time is very precious and of the essence, and there's only so much that we can do in one life, and she has to do it in this life so that she can be free. It is also part of supporting not just her star family, but the entire architecture of this planet. Because of her ability to work on grid systems, not just here, but on galactic levels, she has to do this work daily to support and be a guardian for others. It isn't something that people will overtly see through her or through the work she does for them to support them. It is more subtle. It is like sounds. It's like harmonizing sounds. It's harmonizing frequencies into an orchestra that resounds through the entire fabric of this universe, because she's connected to source and the quantum field directly. There's no interference to this connection, even if there is interference at her body. This is why the beings that were interfering with her path and were trying to hijack her into old patterns to try and pull her back into old systems of thinking were doing this because they were trying to propel her against what she was moving into. It was almost like she was at the precipice and they knocked her back. Whilst other beings of light that have been supporting her, teaching her and helping her, bringing the wisdom through her, were also trying to give her the wings to take that leap. And it was like she was being torn in two, which is essentially what it felt like in her body, that her foot was being torn in two.
Yes.
And this was a physical manifestation of what was happening on an energetic level. For her to understand that this is not, it wasn't done to put her in a state of pain for showing her that she chose wrong. It was so that she could understand that the body needed to remember so that the body can be free. And in order for the body to be free, it does require us to process it on a very physical level, which can be very difficult, as it is for those that are going through pain. Similar with your back pain, it's resisting the path that we're fully embodying. And it's also the photonic frequencies. The thing about the photonic incarnation as part of the ascension process is we no longer can. It is difficult for us to explain because it has more to do with discerning what is matter and energy. If we can explain it, it's like the physical body has to become a unification of both. We have to be both energy and matter. Until we reach the photonic stage of ascension, we are operating with a physical body and a light body. When we become photonic, as she is now, we are operating with a light body inside the physical. We don't need the physical vehicle anymore. She doesn't need the physical body, but essentially she's in this incarnation to do the work she's here to do. That does require a physical body. To some extent, it does require a physical body, because without it, she wouldn't be able to do what is necessary for not just for herself, but yes, for other people.
So are many that are feeling these physical pains, are they going through this also?
Some, to explain, when we experience the photonic, what we call diamond frequencies, there is a lot of back pain. There's a lot of pain in the back and the skeletal system. If there is gamma frequencies, which are more physical, these are usually affecting the cells. So people will have biological issues to do with digestion. They will experience issues with muscles.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we go beyond photonic into what is called plasma, and beyond plasma to quantum frequencies, it is often the nerves. So she's going through a bridge between photonic and quantum.
Mm-hmm.
So her body is starting to acclimate for quantum frequencies, it is really taxing on the physical body, because this is not something that we have experienced here since Atlantis.
Okay. Very
So
good.
Atlantis was the last time that we were quantum in any form.
Mm-hmm.
It was the last aeon before we devolved.
When we acquire these quantum, this quantum body, is this why the body feels so heavy?
Yes, it's so dense. The body's too dense.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like carrying bricks.
Yes.
That's why she can barely walk. Not just the injury, it's like trying to physically move is like trying to carry this massive weight.
Yes, I feel that
It's
too.
yeah, and when you experience it, you understand. If you don't experience it, you're not meant to understand it. There are a lot of people that are trying to, embody this ascension process when they are exactly where they need to be.
Okay.
They are exactly where they need to be.
So for those who are carrying this very heavy body, they're actually their body, their energetic body is changing. That's what's
Yes,
happening. Very
all
good.
the time.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. How long does it take to finally get through this process? Is that individual for each person?
Yes, very individual. Merlin explains it in the sense that for each soul, it really does depend on what they're vibrating at, but vibration is only a small portion of the process.
Mm-hmm.
It does require thousands of years when there has been a degradation and a devolution of the physical aspect of the soul's embodiment. If the physical body is vibrating at such a low level, in order to recrystallize back, it does take a lot of time. It takes so much time, to the point where, yes, it will take thousands of years. For some, it will take many tens of thousands of years, and others it will take one life.
Okay.
In Lisa's case, it has been a long process of recrystallizing in this life. This is what she's seeking to do. This is why time is of the essence.
Is that happening to a lot of people on this earth at this time?
Yes.
Okay.
Because for those that hold the DNA from the original blueprint, the blueprint that was blighted by what occurred in Lemuria, as was shown today. But also that Lemuria was outside of linear time. We say this because what she was doing in that period, it was Lemuria, but it also wasn't Lemuria. It was in a quantum dimension. It was in a dimensional pocket outside of this physical earth, where she could travel in and out so as to harmonize the planet and ensure the stability of the experiment, because that was essential. Of course, because of the interference, it meant that a lot of those pockets had to close, so those fragments got trapped. A lot of those fragments got cut off from those celestial, those higher aspects, as that higher aspect of hers was. Even though she was one of the beings that didn't get harvested, or actually didn't perish until very long after that experience, it affected her so much that it did require her to remain here, which is why it is a struggle for many, because for those that experience that entrapment, it is like they feel trapped all the time, that they can't get out, that we're all desperately trying to achieve this sense of peace, of this original state, returning to source, this desperation to go home, because we know that's what we're here to do. We know that that's essential to the collective ascension. And yes, for some that have the DNA from the original blueprint, it's going to take time, but we do have the sound structures and the harmonics and the codes of light within ourselves to remember and to harmonize again back to that state so that we can free ourselves and to free others as well, because it does mean that we're supporting each other, because it's not always an individual experience. It never has been. It shouldn't have been. We always meant to work in harmony. That's why the Elohim today have showed that on that dimensional level, we were working as one. Mm-hmm. We were working in harmony. This is why we are. This is why we're in a state of separatism. And this is why the interference and this negative agenda that is operating and has been here for thousands, if not tens of thousands of years, have seeded separatism as one of the viral programs to split people, not just from themselves, but from each other.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Anything else that you would like to express today? We could go on for days.
Simply that it does require that we love ourselves through this process. We can't reject our body as we go through it. And while some days that might be very, very difficult, we need to do whatever we can, whether it's hugging, mm-hmm. hugging ourselves from the inside, mm-hmm. and expressing love in as much as we can. It's just essential that we embody love towards ourselves so that we can connect more fully, more in harmony with all the aspects and fragments that are of ourselves that are seeking to return to that original state, to our soul.
Good. So before we leave, did we accomplish everything that we needed to accomplish in this session today with Elise?
Yes, for now.
5, wide awake, completely alert, feeling wonderful all over.
Oh my gosh, I'm buzzing.
How do you feel besides buzzing?
Yes, like the energy is so intense. I'm like hot. Like burning. It's crazy. It's great though. It's good.
Wow, we did a lot, huh?
Yes.
Do you remember it all?
Yeah. I think. I don't know. I think so.
Now, you had a session before which was very long. Did you feel that this one was long or short? What did it feel like to you?
They really felt the same in terms of the quality, the quantity of what was covered. But it really does show that you don't need a long time with this work. Time is so relevant in all this work.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long did it feel to you?
2 hours?
No, we're on 1 hour and 40 minutes right now.
Oh, that's good. Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, we did a lot of work.
And
your foot is warm?
It's a bit more numb than warm, but I do feel very warm all over, so that's really lovely. Yeah.
That's great.
Yes.
Wow.
The fear has really dissipated though. Yeah.
Well, we went all over the place.
Yeah. It wasn't. Yeah, it's really surprising actually. Didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, and what was surprising was Surah in your foot.
Yeah, I just felt his hate. It was really strong. Like yeah, it was almost felt very guilty for mm, creating that experience for them and also having them fragment in that way. But I understand why they felt that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were, I saw them as a high priest, and I had to revoke their authority because they were, I really felt that they were violating a code.
Mm.
And yeah, it was very early on in, it was almost before we know Egypt to have existed. It was almost like after Atlantis.
Wow.
And yeah, there were still beings of light here, and there was something not quite right with them, and they had been assigned by someone else. And when I stepped into the role that I had, whatever that was, it was almost like I saw there that they weren't truthful.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So yeah, I'm so glad that they felt free after, though. I really did feel their
Wow.
relief.
So, Elise, is this something you want to share with others?
I suppose I'm quite happy if yeah, it's almost like it's already fading, so I don't have a reference for whether it's valuable. But yes, I suppose if it is, for
There was a lot
sure.
of information. A lot
Oh,
of,
really? Wow.
well, it was like they kept going,
Yeah,
and
I
talking.
felt like it was almost like it was being spat out of my mouth. It was like this real adamance to just get it out. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
really amazing, to the point where like I was being held. We're like, we've got to get this out.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's what it felt like. It's like, no, we're not stopping. We need to get this information out, and you're going to do this. So, does this all make sense to you? Why um, things happen? I mean, you were shattered
yeah,
a time
yeah.
ago as the Elohim, right?
Yes. Yeah, it was really, it was quite, it's terrifying because, when you're in that, then when you're that being, all you know is love, all you know
Right.
is light, all you know is harmonics, all you know is beauty.
Yeah.
There was such beauty. And it was like when we experienced that intervention, it was like from a completely different universe. It was completely alien. And we really didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah.
I did feel like in that time, in that memory, it was almost like I remember this. I remember going through this.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember then not knowing, then feeling like even though you're this higher dimensional being, that you can still feel all these
Yeah.
things because
Yeah.
they're different sounds. They're not, I guess what people tend to get confused with these days is that dimensions are like time. It's linear. It's not. It's so much more
It's amazing. It's amazing.
circular. So
Wow.
yeah. Thank you, Alba.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your magic, for your own harmonic beauty, because it's really powerful when it's like, when it's simple, like you say, with the energy you're connecting from across the world. It's sounds and harmonies coming together to create music. And that's how it feels a lot of the time with energy healing. And when you're really with someone who's, meant to be channeling as they are,
Mhm.
doing as you are,
Yeah.
it makes a huge difference for the receiver, because it means that what they receive is pure and what they receive is not interfered with, because essentially that's what a lot of people remember, that there has been so much interference. And so when you're connecting with someone, you're wondering, am I going to get this interference? Is this going to be distorted? Is this
Ah.
going to be real?
So
you know
as a channel, I mean, because you're a channel, you're psychic, you're what else? You've got a whole long list of things that you do.
yeah, well, as my guides tell me, they're just labels to explain. But I identify, I guess these are things I used to explain to people that ask for assistance or support. I'm a psychic telepath. I'm an empath, physical, emotional empath. So I basically feel everything that the client feels.
Yes.
I remember for them so that they are supported in that remembering, because a lot of it can be incredibly painful and incredibly intense. But on a higher level, I serve as a grid worker and as a gatekeeper for this planet. And I every day do this work because of, I guess, my soul, what I've done in the past, and also what I've done beyond this world as well.
Yeah.
So as a gatekeeper and as a way shower, I'm bringing in codes and light so that I'm basically delivering them for the
Wow.
collective ascension. So it does mean that I will go through things before the collective does. It means that some days I'm going through what Gaia is going through. So, I have to discern that from my own experience, which is a case of what I've gone through and why this session was so critical for my own journey, is that I haven't been able to support the collective, I feel. So I've been so focused on myself.
Yeah.
But also, I think now what it's explained is that I needed to go through a rewrite and a repair
Yeah.
so that my body can support on a different
Exactly.
level.
Well,
Yeah.
there is no such thing as time. So all of this
No
stuff
time.
that you were doing, it's not like it's a past life. Everything is happening like quantum
Simultaneously.
simultaneously.
Yeah.
So that is why
Yeah.
we're able to heal in when you went back and I asked you to heal all of your prior incarnations to get back
Yes.
those fractals. That,
Yeah. And it's really incredible because like at the time of seeing that, I could see all the torture, I could see all the pain, I can see some of those lifetimes where you're literally standing in front of a crowd whilst people were,
yeah.
shouting and
Yep.
trying to tear you down. And so it's that bombardment of experience which people are
Yeah.
remembering and recollecting now, which
Yeah.
I think it's important that people know it's not just them, it's that everyone's going through this, so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
this whole planet and every being on this planet can free themselves, supporting each other through it as well,
Yeah.
because we're not alone, and it does require a lot of self-love.
So, are you offering services for the public?
Yes. I suppose now's the time. So
So, how can
yes.
somebody reach you?
I have a website under the umbrella of my business called Goddess Truth Alchemy. And the reason I use that is because I work with a team of light beings that direct everything that I do, and there's no human direction. It's everything is guided by source. Everything is guided by what I receive from the quantum field. So um, I offer energy healings and readings and guidance, especially for those on the ascension path, because every experience is individual and every experience needs to be navigated
Mm-hmm.
that is particular to their soul, but also their personal grid system. So I often work not just in terms of energy healing, I'm doing work on their personal grid.
Wow.
So
Nice.
especially recently, where the wisdom that's come through, to explain just quickly, it's because we're in a grid system on a collective level, we also have individual grid systems. And if we have been connected into the false grid, we need to be disconnected. As what came up in today's session, I feel too, is that, we need to dismantle those threads. If we don't, we're still being programmed and seeded with a lot of those false codes and templates.
Yeah.
And so, in order for us to go through our ascension in a way that is organic and authentic for our soul, we need to dismantle it. So often that's the work that I do for people, because I can
Beautiful.
unplug them.
Fabulous. That's fabulous.
So
That's
yeah.
great.
So
That's
thank
great.
you, Alba.
You're welcome. So, for those of you who are watching this, if you want to get a hold of me, just go to my website, albaweinman.com, sign up for my mailing list, and I send out a newsletter about once a month. And on that newsletter, there is a link to a calendar with available sessions. And that is how Elise got a session with me. She is down under. She's in Australia, and I do special nighttime sessions for those in Australia. So thank you for watching. I hope I get to meet you sometime soon. Bye bye.